Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Yes, you're seeing a matryoshka. Matryoshka dolls, also known as babushka dolls, stacking dolls, nesting dolls, Russian tea dolls, or Russian dolls. These are a set of wooden dolls of decreasing size placed one inside another. The name matryoshka literally means little matron. It is a diminutive form of the Russian female first name Matriona, or Matryoshka. It is a set of matryushkas consists of a wooden figure, which separates at the middle, the top from the bottom, to reveal a smaller figure of the same sort inside, which has in turn another figure inside of it, and so on. Well, the first Russian nested doll set was made in 1890 by a wood-turning craftsman and wood carver Vasily Zvyozdotchkin from a design by Sergei Malyutin, who was a folk crafts painter at Ambramtsevo. Traditionally, the outer layer is a woman dressed in a sarafan, a long and shapeless traditional Russian peasant jumper dress. The figures inside may be of any gender. The smallest, innermost doll is typically a baby, turned from a single piece of wood. Much of the artistry is in the painting of each doll, which can be very elaborative. The dolls often follow the theme. The themes may vary from fairy tale characters to Soviet leaders. In the West, matryoshka dolls are often referred to as babushka dolls. Babushka means grandmother or old woman. What is the story of a nesting dolls or a Russian dolls? Russian dolls. The shape was inspired by a mother's portly figure depicting her fertility and her significance as the center of the traditional Russian family. The act of nesting the dolls inside the biggest dolls represent the mother and her ability to carry and conceive her sons and daughters. Now here is the twist of the story. Although considered as one of the oldest traditions in the culture and history of Russia, many sources and historians believe that the dolls were not considered as much of a groundbreaking invention as they are often thought to be. In fact, it was never an invention but merely innovation from an inspiration. Strong evidence points out that the other forms of nesting dolls existed hundreds of years before the first matryoshka was ever made. It simply means that despite the fact that the nesting dolls gained worldwide exposure and popularity from Russia, there is a physical proof that the idea of the nesting dolls inside one another has existed since the beginning of the first millennium. That's nearly 900 years before the first matryoshka doll were made. Created for the purpose of storage and decoration, the Chinese invented the nesting of wooden boxes inside one another in 1000 AD. The concept consisted of a big wooden box that when opened contained an almost identical wooden box but smaller, and inside that smaller box contained yet another smaller box, and so on. This concept would then evolve from nesting boxes to nesting dolls, serving as the foundation of the world's first nesting dolls. This approach soon immigrated to Japan, which they then implemented the idea to create the wooden dolls of their own deities. The Shiji Fukujin, or seven lucky gods, who are believed to grant good luck in Japanese mythology, were amongst the first to have wooden nesting dolls made in their image. The Japanese god of happiness and longevity, Fukurokuju, is shaped in a wooden doll that can be taken apart and inside would reveal the six gods. This very same doll managed to catch a young woman's attention, so she brought it back to her home country. That young woman is Elizaveta Mamontova. Elizaveta Mamontova was the wife of a wealthy Russian industrialist and entrepreneur named Sava Mamontov. Mamontov was a patron of the arts and was an advocate of creating and preserving the folk art of the Russian culture. Because of that aspiration, he founded a workshop in Abramtsevo, Moscow. The children's education workshop aimed to design and construct children's dolls, which would, of course, depict and represent the traditional Russian lifestyle and culture. But then, there is no clear certainty that Elisaveta brought the doll to the workshop to serve as an inspiration for the workers there, including Vasily Zvyozdotchkin and Sergei Malyutin. So, some historians believe that the inspiration came from Russia itself, not a doll from another country. It is well known that Russians created detachable Easter eggs before the first Matryoshka dolls were made, and perhaps this was where the inspiration came from. So much for the history of Matryoshka dolls. Now, actually Matryoshka dolls are made of wood from lime, balsa, alder, aspen, and birch trees. Lime is probably the most common wood type. This wood shares softness, lightweight, and fine grain texture. During the early springs, the trees for matryoshka making are marked for cutting. They are felled in April when they are full of sap. After cutting, the trees are stripped off most of their bark, although a few inner rings of the bark are left to bind the wood and keep it from splitting. The top and butt ends of the trunk are smeared with sap to keep them from cracking. The logs are then stacked in piles in such a way as to leave clearance between the logs so air can still circulate. The logs are aerated in the open for at least 2 years. A master woodworker decides when they are seasoned enough to be worked. The tree trunks are cut into lengths appropriate for the heights of the matryoshka to be made and transported to the woodworker's shop. Raw materials for treating the work dolls before painting include oil to retain the moisture and a starch-based glue primer. The artist uses tempera paints, oil paints, gold leaf, and less often watercolors. Lacquer and sometimes wax are used to provide protective layers on the painted artworks. In the traditional sets, there can be 5 to 30 dolls, although some custom sets feature even more dolls, while there are many variations. Traditional babushka dolls are usually painted to look like a Russian woman in her native costume, complete with a kerchief on her head. Why is it again called matryoshka? The word matryoshka came from the Latin word mater, which means mother, so it was more than fitting for the nesting dolls to be named matryoshka dolls, because of who and what it symbolizes. However, people of the West are calling them babushka dolls instead of the original matryoshka, and although the term babushka is still associated with Russia, the name behind that holds a completely different meaning. Babushka means grandmother or old woman. With that being said, naming the nesting dolls as babushka dolls clearly give out the incorrect meaning of the Russian wooden toys. It would take us a day or two to finish talking about matryoshka, so comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel. That's it for now. Thank you and God bless.